My body of work, my body of artwork is the seen and unseen. In everyday life, we think we see with our eyes what we see, but there's always something inside, beneath, or underneath. I've chosen curiosity cabinets, or curiosity cabinet style. That's why my artwork is displayed on medical trolleys. I chose anatomy, the anatomy of a horse, and different aspects. When people learn about anatomy, the anatomist usually takes these beautiful 3D, intricate, layered specimens, and they flatten it to something in a 2D line drawing to make the students understand it better. But in the process, so much of the beauty, the texture, the awe gets lost. So I'm trying to bring back the curiosity, the awe, the something behind the anatomy. So my artwork, I'm going to walk you through it. They're all placed on wooden blocks with grooves in them. The photographs are either in perspex or paper. The photographs were taken with putting lenses and probes up sinus cavities and inside brains of the skeleton of a horse, so that you could see, or been taken from different angles, so that you can actually see what it looks like in real life and not a flat drawing. Over here we've got a molar of a horse. This photo here, that's the end of the skull, actually shows you from where the horse tooth starts, although only that part over there is visible for the eye. That part over there is the bite mark of the horse. Horses are aged by the teeth. They change shapes and sizes. The interesting part about horses is they still have canines and what they call wolf teeth, both in the male and the female of the species. You'll see I've got different horse teeth, the different textures of the horse teeth that I find amazing. Aging a horse is not very easy. Their DNA and their food that they eat do play a role in their age, so it's not an exact science. On the second tier of the trolley at the bottom, we've got a half horse skull with the teeth. The skull, the bony bits have been cut out so that you can see the molars, the part that chews the grass. You can see the size of them in comparison with my hand. And then of course the incisors that cuts the grass. Next to it I've got 150-year-old microscope. Now they're not in use anymore in today. We've got much more modern ones with blood smears, once again also not in use today. Like this, everything is electronic. I just thought it ironic to put something that moves around when doing age to something static that doesn't move around. The box is the holder for the microscope. These are folders in which they put the blood smears. This piece over here is a nasal bone. I've inserted a camera into his skull so you can see what it looks like inside. You would not picture this. It's 300 by 400 on perspex. You would not picture this or think of this as something to do with a horse. Once again, I mounted it on a rod that's removable so that the viewer can interact. I've placed pieces of the bone with the artwork so that you can see how thin the actual nasal bone is. It's paper thin. But look once again at all these beautiful patterns and markings, but paper thin, paper thin. All the little boxes that I've used in my display comes from the Boer War and the First World War, where they used horses as animals and working animals in the wars. I've placed a syringe. It's totally glass with no rubber seals. That dates also from that period in the curiosity cabinet. I think the most favorite part of this exhibition is the center trolley. I think that's why I placed it center. Once again, this is the back and neck bone of the horse. I glued it together. Brazing rods once again onto wood so that it stands out. Here it's all the textures. These textures are different though from the nasal cavities. These textures are used for the muscles to grab onto. So the more grainier they are, the more muscular this specimen was in real life. It's very beautiful when you look at the photograph that I took. You'll see with the shoulder bone in, it starts to look like a swan, some different creature, like it's supposed to have wings to fly away. It's not what the drawings in the books look like. Drawings in the book, flat and flat. So you start to lose that beauty of looking at it from a different angle. Imagine where the muscles must attach and how it would look like with the muscles on. And as I said, this is beautiful as it starts looking like a new species. Once again, inside these metal tins, I've got pieces of bone that broke off. I want the viewer to interact with the work. You can clearly see the holes in the bone where the veins and arteries go through, the roundness, the feel of it, wondering where it fit. Part of the puzzle that needs to be fixed. Over here's a boiled horse hoof. It was sliced in half. The feeling, the texture, it's got the names in it of what exactly goes where. The facies particulus, the apex. I actually want the viewer to have a look, learn something new about it. Not just the textures, but the names. Maybe somewhere some things get stuck. Maybe somebody also finds a love for anatomy, something that you don't see or appreciate. The half was printed on paper. Once again, look at the beautiful structures and markings that it makes. On the paper, I took an X-ray, underdeveloped X-ray, and started drawing on the X-ray on where they should be, the markings and the hoof should be. I have horseshoes here. These horseshoes are from the Kalahari, near a police station where they used to do patrols with the nails that they used to put in to the horse hooves. In this little holder I've got powder. It's the powder of the cutting down of the horse hoof. When you look at the different drawings of the horse hoof, the interesting part I find is this little bit here is called the frog. On the second tier of the second trolley, we have an extension of the horse hoof with the part of the leg. The previous one was boiled down. These were not boiled down. You can still see the sinewy bits and the colored bits that was colored later on to show different pieces of the sinew bits of the horse's leg where it bends for the students to give them a better understanding. I took some of the x-rays that was overexposed, and I took a white Coke and started drawing on it to bring out the bones so that you can see the bones. This was underexposed, so once again I took a Coke and I drew the bones where they're supposed to go. To give you an idea, in today's world we don't use the x-rays anymore. It's all on computer, and the computer generated pictures aren't high resolution enough to print. This is also a horse leg that was also not boiled down, but was actually whittled down bit by bit and screwed together in the right angles with the horseshoe on still. This is parts of the back of the brain of the horse. I took a camera and once again inserted it into different parts of the cavities of the brain to take photographs of that part of the brain over there. The pictures that I got through was quite unique and quite stunning. There's part of the sinus cavity, and there is the brain. This is printed on Perspex. It's 300 by 300. Also part of the brain. This is on paper. I tried different, as you can see, lighting techniques and different sides of the brain with all the cavities where the brain, those are for veins, comes through. Here we've got half the skull that was drilled post-mortem. Here's the front of the brain with the eye socket, of course the teeth, and the different passages. There's the nasal. Once again, with this one you can see everything is intact and whole, but you can see once you start boiling it down, it becomes different layers and it becomes almost like a 3D puzzle to put together. It's quite fun. So yes, that's just the idea of what it looks like and what it looks like from a different viewpoint of a camera with different lighting. And that's the actual viewpoint. Once again, it's mounted on wood with a rod. We've got a photograph of the outside of the skull. Once again, the ridges. That's where your muscles attach. And here is also a beautiful part of the skull. Almost looks like a landscape. And a transparency on the different connection points of the skull. Here we have an old drawing on vinyl. They used to, about 20, 30 years ago, before all new technology, maybe 40 years ago, have drawings that the lecturers would draw. You can see there's part of the eye, the nostrils, so I drew on top of it and started cutting it out to actually try and explain to the students where the nasal cavities is, and they would indicate it as blue, and that's not what it looks like. So I drew on top of it with a red marker with the different muscle attachments. On the last trolley, on the last tier, we've got half a skull in formalin. The formalin unfortunately started leaking, and the formalin over time whitens, almost bleaches the inside. but it's beautiful to see that parts of it is still intact. There at the bottom you can see a little bit of the teeth, the palate, the sinus cavities, the brain, where the brain would have been. Behind this we've got a full horse skull with the mandible all intact, also on display. In closing, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch my video that I made, viewing the artwork. I hope you take the time to start looking at things different. I hope this inspires you to look beyond, to look inside the things that you see every day and experience every day. And I'd like to thank Wilma Willifeer for some of the specimens and helping me go through all the archives. And I'd like to thank Tim Neary for constantly supporting me. Thank you.